Okay, so let's have a look at the kind of testimonial, referral, reactivation process that like it pains me when I see it that like so many people are missing this. And yeah, I'm hopefully going to help you set up a bit of it now. So let's quickly, quickly will be the word. Let's quickly try to go over what's wrong so that you'll fundamentally like know the issues and then you can go fix it whichever way you see fit. So when you have a client and they finish up, very often this is kind of what happens. They'll come off all the apps, you'll have their testimonial like before and after photos, but you can only use them so many times. And then, you'll probably send them a message being like, hey, it was great to work with you, dude. And then that's the end of it. You might like some of their Instagram posts every now and again, but that's kind of it. Now, that is costing us. It's costing us referrals, it's costing us testimonials, and it's costing us reactivations. And we want to try to fix that. Now, the problem is it all comes down to what happens when they leave for like the way the relationship is going to be in the future and how easy it will be to get them back in the future. Now, the problem if you're doing something like just remove them from all the apps, we've no real testimonial, no referral, no reactivation, no real data about what's going on with them after they leave. Like a WhatsApp and a goodbye, yeah, it's cool. We give them a nice message. A manual exit survey, yeah, we might ask for a testimonial, we might not. Offboarding call, we'll probably ask for a testimonial, we'll probably get one, but just depending on how they answer the questions at the time, it might be usable, it might not be usable. We might ask for a referral, but when they're on the spot like that, they might not feel that they can actually give you one. And then there's just data living in your head, like you're not actually getting that stuff and putting it anywhere that would be able to pull from. And then as we start to get better with options, it's like, right, what if we do all that and then we have referral or reminders to follow up? Great. But what we want is we want a kind of fully automated exit survey plus a reactivation loop. I'm going to show you the kind of why behind every step of this. So the core job of this, there's three parts. We have to capture the information. We have to then track that information so that we can reuse it and go back to it and use it again. And then we have to reactivate them, hopefully in the future, either in 6 weeks' time or longer down the line. But that is the core job of this. Now, what we want to do is we want to have it set up so as soon as somebody leaves, this is the kind of process. It doesn't have to be fully automated, but we can set up like varying degrees of automation. So we have a client here who is active, and then as soon as we set them as graduated, we want the status to flip to graduated. It then sends out the exit survey, and then from there, the reactivation is queued based off the exit survey. Now, the way that this works is in the exit survey, there's multiple different parts to it. It's not just a form saying, hey, how was your time? Was it great? Give us 5 stars. Like there's a process behind it and there's logic in the order that we ask the questions. So this is the way that it should be set up. And you could set this up on anything. It doesn't really matter what type of a form system, but we do want to be able to add some logic in there. So just maybe not Google Forms, pretty much anything else will be able to do it. The start of it is the initial goals. And we're going to ask them questions like this. The goal behind this is to find out where were they when they started working with you. I know before you're like, all right, basic, just trust me on this. We want to figure out like what were your main goals, what were the challenges you were facing, and why did you decide to join? Some iteration of those kind of questions. After that, we're going to ask them for what wins and progress they had. So we're looking for like peak emotional state, like what was like the aha moments or where they're like, this is amazing. So like what are you most proud of? What things like clicked? And then from there, like how do you feel now versus when you joined? So it's like, did you solve the initial kind of problem that you had? After that, we are then going to go to the program feedback. So the program feedback is going to be a little bit less in terms of like the testimonial part, but it's more getting the client to say like, oh, the parts that they loved about the coaching program. It's a little bit of feedback on your side then as well to be like, right, well, people are consistently saying that this is what they preferred. Maybe I double down on that. But what part did they like? What element of the support helped the most? And then from there, anything else that could have been implemented or anything else you'd like to add, chances are they're going to be like, no, it was great there, but change around the questions to kind of suit whatever way your program is set up. Now, the important one, we have the kind of net promoter score here. So if they say like, how likely would they be to recommend this to a friend or a family member? If the score is low, we're pretty much ending it right there. Like if they say a 1 to a 5, there's something going on and they wouldn't recommend it. Now, depending on your clients, whatever way they would read this, you might need to rephrase the way the question is. If they're like, I wouldn't recommend people because I generally don't have other people this way that are into this kind of a thing. It's not that type of a question. It's like, how likely would you be to say to somebody, if they said, hey, should I join this? Is this a good program? Should I work with this person? That's what we kind of want to get the point across to. So if they answer anything down here, it's going to use logic then to basically end the survey there. If they answer here, it's going to basically skip him to some future goals. And then from here, if they answer 8, 9, or 10, this is where we get into like the testimonials, referrals, and stuff like that. So if they do answer this, this unlocks the next section. And in the next section, we're going to ask them a little bit about testimonials. So we're just going to say, hey, how would you like to share your story? And we're going to give them options to share it and not to share it. But don't worry, even if they don't share it, we'll have a way of sharing the story as well. So we're going to give them a short testimonial, and then you can have almost like a 60-second guided process where you'll be like, hey, that's amazing. Can you just put your phone into like selfie mode? Be like, hey, this is my name. I've been working with this person before I start. And then give them almost like a guided process of what you want them to talk about. Make it loose, because if it's natural, it's great. But we don't want people to be like, yeah, Aaron's a great person to work with. I really enjoyed working with Aaron. He's such a nice guy. It's like that doesn't really help people make a buying decision. You need testimonials that are authentic, but it actually tells them like the problems that were solved, why they worked with them, all that kind of stuff. So a small bit of a guided process. The next one is the written testimonials. So if you click on written, we're going to essentially do that same thing. So 4 short questions will appear, and the questions are written in a way. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. They use the SB7 framework, where it's essentially figuring out like, right, where was the person, what struggles were they having. They met a guide, you're the guide, and then it basically takes them through like the kind of hero's journey all the way through. A lot of movies and things are based around that kind of psychology. So you're taking them through that process, and you're just asking them a few questions, and then from there you could ask them, right, do you want to do a 10-minute case study interview? And if they do say that, we can have a link essentially popped up for them to get booked in. But 90% of like case study questions have already been done from the initial bit. Then if they say, I'd rather not, that's totally cool as well. Then the 4 questions, here's an example of something that you can use. Feel free to change it around the wording, but like this is the general kind of idea that we want with it. So we want problem, guide, solution, result. And then from there, we're bringing them onto the future goals. This is super important for the reactivation, because what we want is we want them to commit to a goal, but we want a deadline on this, because that deadline becomes your reactivation. Because if you just reach out to somebody a few weeks later being like, hey, how's things? They're like, oh, what does this fella want? But if they already committed to a goal, they told you they were committing to it, why they were committing to it, what they were going to do, and all this, why it was important. When you reach out to them then again and be like, hey, how are you getting on with X that you said that you were going to do? 2 things are going to happen. The first one is that they're going to achieve it. And you'll be like, dude, that's fucking amazing. And then you have more social proof to share that, like what you show them is even working in the future. If they don't achieve it, you're going to ask why. And it's likely going to be to do with accountability rather than the actual knowledge. And then from there, you have a natural opportunity to ask them to come back in. So you would have something like this. Sorry, let me there we are. So you would have something like this, where as soon as it's 6 weeks after they completed the exit survey, you could have a pre-done kind of like template message sent to you to be like, hey, reach out to Aaron. He said 6 weeks ago that he was going to try to get a sub 25-minute 5K or whatever it was. Let's see, did he actually do it? Now, bring it back a bit. So here's the questions that you're going to ask them, and make sure that you use these types of ones. So what is the goal? Why do we want to achieve it? So we make sure that there's still importance to it. And then what is going to be the biggest obstacles, so that they state that as well. And then from there, this is what we're kind of getting out of it. So if the person says, oh, look, I don't want to give you a testimonial, I'm shy on camera, I don't really want to write anything, I'd like to stay anonymous, that's totally cool, because we are still able to get client case study from what you've just asked them throughout this entire kind of exit process. So we have the starting state in section 1. Section 2 was the wins. So we got the transformation. Section 3 was like what worked for them, what clicked, what they enjoyed. That was the how. And then all you have to do is just back it up with receipts. And that's your data from like your coaching app, like your check-ins. Oh, on a check-in, they told me this. When they started, they told me this. Here's their weight graph. And like none of this has to be like saying the actual client's name, and you'll be able to put the case study together. So you'll be able to see like, right, where we started, we were here, we were here. Here's a 16-week journey. How do we gone down? Now we're here. Now we're here. So you'll be able to show that from a person who didn't actually give you a testimonial, but they just gave you the actual exit survey. So Hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, that's basically it. Then once you have the exit survey done, there's just kind of two automations that need to run. The first one is once the survey is submitted, we needed to set a timer for us to follow up in 6 weeks with that kind of message that we're going to send out to them. And then the next part is just to link it back to the client's profile. So every client who has it completed will see it flagged on their profile saying exit survey is completed, and then we can click on it at any time. And then anytime that we're thinking back to like, oh, testimonials, case study results, anything that we've achieved. We have a list of all our old clients that we can go back into their testimonials, like actual testimonials and things that they said was amazing and things that they achieved working with us. It's just like a massive bank of social proof. So the VA then could go back through that every now and again, resurface it, or you could do it yourself, completely up to you. And this is the way it would be populated. So you see, like, hey, nine, the written testimonial, future goal, reactivation date would just be populated onto a list like that for you. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you have any questions, pop it over to me. What you've done now is you've just closed the gap so that every time that a client leaves, it's not just, oh shit, the client left. We actually have a testimonial, referral opportunity, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, if you have any questions about it or implementing it, drop me a message. Hope this helps.